Hello, beautiful. My name is Anastasia Hunu, and today I'm going to be doing a girl talk Q&A. So obviously, no boys allowed. So if you're a man, obviously just send this to your girlfriend, send this to your wife, your sister, whoever else, but you're not allowed, all right? So I'm going to be answering some juicy questions that you guys have asked me on Instagram, and then I also have some other questions that I thought would be interesting to answer. So I have my laptop here, and we are just going to be raw and real today. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. The first question that I was asked was, what's the most difficult part of being a wife? And I would have to say it is compromise. And let's just talk about it. So here's a fresh example. When me and my husband first got married, he moved into my apartment and he had this L-shaped desk. And this was something that really irritated me because we had the pretty decently sized living room when in my first apartment. And he had this L-shaped desk and I really wanted him to have it against the wall. But he was dead set on having it so that the L was going into the living room and was basically taking up the whole entire living room. And I was really mad about that at first because, you know, the living room was technically like our office as well. So I had a desk there as well. And it was like a whole thing. But I realized, you know what, it is what it is. It's honestly not a big deal. We were able to move things around and it ended up looking pretty nice at the end. So there's definitely a lot of compromise when you're starting to live with someone. And that was something small, but it's also really big when it comes to our finances and how we spend them. If it was me, I would be spending a lot of money traveling, doing different things, but he has goals to pay off debt before we do big things like that. And as a wife, I have to submit to my husband, which is biblical, is something that the Bible teaches. And that's also something really difficult as well, submitting to my husband. So it has been definitely a lot of compromise, and it's on both of our ends. Obviously, we both compromise a lot when it comes to different things, but learning how to compromise, learning how to communicate effectively, there's just a lot of difficult things when it comes to marriage. But at the end of the day, it is very, very rewarding when you guys come to an agreement on something that benefits both parties. Another thing too that was really difficult, like I said, is communication. We both communicate in a different way, obviously, because we both receive it in a different way. What I mean by that is, like, men and women are completely different. So I had to learn that my husband receives respect very well, and I receive love very well. This is from a book called Love and Respect. And respecting my husband is something that's really crucial. It's very important. And it just is it's basically how you say it, how you say something, how I ask him for something. It completely changes everything. The tone that I use, you know, so instead of being like,
can you just do the dishes? Wow, you never do the dishes.
I could just be like, hey, baby, would you be willing to do the dishes really quick? Yeah, he's willing to do it. He's on his way. There's just a different way to talk to my man, right? So that's definitely something that I learned as well. We were taught really good lessons about marriage before we were married that really, really helped throughout our marriage. And now our relationship is the best it's literally ever been, ever since we've even been together for almost 5 years ago. Our relationship is the best now than it has ever been. So I'm truly grateful for that. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of hard things about being a wife, which I'll get to either later in this video or later on my YouTube channel, so definitely subscribe. All right, so the next question is, favorite thing you did in your wedding? My favorite part of my wedding was worshiping with my husband at the altar. We had this moment of like maybe 5 to 7 minutes or so where my husband and I just worshiped to the song The Blessing. And it was basically literally straight out of scripture, this song, and it's blessing the generations that come from us. The words leave me right now, but the song is so beautiful and it's blessing our marriage, blessing generations. And it was just such a beautiful moment because most of the congregation, most of my family that were there actually are Christians, and they knew the song as well, and they were praying over us, and it was just loud and spiritual, and it was beautiful. And I absolutely loved it. And it was such a meaningful moment because we were getting married, we were getting blessed by our family that was just praying over us, raising their hands, and just it was just an amazing moment. And I watched that video over and over and over again because it's just so beautiful. And it was like the perfect way to start our wedding. And I absolutely adored it. So that was my favorite part of my wedding. I absolutely also loved the food and the dancing. That was so fun because my husband is African and I'm Puerto Rican, and we have those two cultures. So the food was very cultural. We had like each of our cultures types of rice. We both love plantains, which is why I married him. No, I'm kidding. But both of our favorite foods are plantains. And if you haven't tried it yet, please do. It's like the best thing. And we had that there. We just had a whole bunch of different types of food from both of our cultures. And I just thought it was the best wedding food ever. I mean, and then we also had dancing, like I said, African and Puerto Rican. So it was really cool. There was a moment where it was a whole bunch of songs that were in Spanish. Then it switched to Afro beats and you could just see the crowd switching up. And it was just so fun. I loved it. And yeah, I'm the type of person that loves being around my distant family that I haven't seen in a long time. So it was honestly just the best day. I loved it. Do you have any regrets for your wedding? I have some regrets of having it in the winter because obviously it's the winter time and it was in Illinois, so you never know what the weather's going to be like. There was supposed to be a whole bunch of snow on that day, so I wasn't even sure if, a lot of people were going to come or not. And then on the day of my wedding, it ended up being very rainy. And if you were in Illinois, you know that if it's a rainy day in the winter, a lot of times it could be very icy, which could be dangerous to drive in. So I regret having it in the winter, but I mean, it ended up working out okay. But basically, most of my family lived like 2 hours away from me in Chicago. So most people had to travel like an hour and a half or 2 hours. And because of that, a lot of people left early. So there's that. A lot of people left earlier than I thought. We had thought that the wedding was going to go all the way until like 11 p.m. or something. And it ended up ending at like 8 o'clock. So people like kept on leaving, and I was like getting so sad because I was like, why is everyone leaving already? But at the same time, I was excited to get to the hotel room because it was like our first night being married, So I was like, but it's all right because I was tired. I literally only slept 3 hours that night before my wedding, which wasn't smart at all. I had stayed up writing my vows, which wasn't smart either. I'm not even going to say this. I actually finished I'm just going to say it. I actually finished my vows as I was getting my hair done because I was staying up all night and the words just weren't coming to me. And then I ended up finishing my vows the next day while I was getting ready. And they ended up being perfect. So it is what it is. A lot of my family left early, and then a lot of people actually didn't even come because of, like I said, the weather. And maybe they just didn't want to show up. I don't know. But we had a whole bunch of seats that weren't filled. Like, literally there were tables that people didn't come, and that was kind of frustrating because we spent a lot of money, or my family spent a lot of money to put this together. And obviously if you account for people being there, and they said that they were going to be there, they just didn't come, like we were just like kind of bummed about that. But it is what it is. We still had fun with the people that were there. I wasn't even mad. I was like, as long as we got married and people had fun, people had a good food, then I was fine with it. I think looking back now, I definitely probably would have waited a couple more months and just had it in the spring. But honestly, I'm thankful that we got married, like I said, at that time, because we got married earlier, right? And I wanted to be married as early as possible. We literally got married within like 4 or 5 months of being engaged. So yeah, that was interesting. What are your thoughts on birth control? So, okay, I have done a lot of research on birth control and I didn't see the best reviews about it. And I know that one day when both my husband and I are ready for children, I want to have a lot of kids. And I learned that a lot of people that were on birth control have problems and complications with kids sometimes. And I also learned that when you're on birth control, a lot of times your mind is even different. Like you're in different types of men than you would be if you weren't on birth control. And then it messes up with your cycle, and it just does all these other different things. And I'm a big component of not putting things in my body that don't need to be there. I feel like God created women and their cycle and everything for a reason, and I just feel like it doesn't need to be messed with. I also use the Flow app. So you can use the Flow app, and the Flow app is going to tell you what days that you are most fertile, and you can track it that way where you can tell because you're only fertile like 5 or 6 days out of the month or something like that. So you basically just track your fertility days, and on those days you don't have sex, or you're just more careful, and then days that you're not fertile, just go at it. So yeah, I just feel like I'm definitely one of those people though that, like, if there was a mishap and we ended up getting pregnant, we're both the type of people that, like, it is what it is, like, it was meant to happen. But I don't know, I feel like I'm not opposed to a child. My husband definitely doesn't want a child right now. But we're basically just like doing our best to not get pregnant with more natural ways of birth control, and not relying on the pill or an injection or anything like that I've seen a lot of girls do throughout my years in high school. I remember I had some friends that were on birth control, and they had issues, like they gained a lot of weight, or they also broke out a lot. So it was just interesting, and I just realized I didn't want to go through any of that. So I've never taken any type of birth control or anything like that. Were you afraid for your husband to see your body or parts when you got married? To be honest, I really wasn't that afraid for my husband to see my body when we got married, because at that point we were already best friends. Like we were together for 3.5 years before we got married. We spent a lot of time together before we got married. We did wait for sex until marriage, which was amazing. I'm really thankful that we did that. And yeah, we did. We waited 3.5 years to have sex. I just want to say that. My husband is a man of God, and he didn't push us into anything, and I'm really grateful for him. But anywho, we were best friends, and honestly, it was just an amazing moment, and I really wasn't afraid for my husband to see me, because I don't know, I was pretty comfortable with him at that point. So yeah, we were just excited for that moment and nothing else. I was just really excited for that. So there's that. How was the transition from living on your own to living with another person? So this was very interesting because, like I said, or maybe I didn't, but my husband actually moved into my apartment, and I had already had a certain way that things went in my apartment, and I had a certain way that it looked, where my placement of everything was. And when he moved all of his stuff in, it was really interesting because, well, first of all, I don't like clutter, and I felt like it was really cluttered for a time, and we just had a new routine that we had to figure out. We had 2 different work schedules. We weren't used to sleeping with another person every night, and I was getting used to all of that, and it was very interesting. It was hard at first. Actually, it was amazing. It was wonderful, but it was also hard at the same time. We definitely had a lot of downs in the first few months of our marriage because we were just getting used to living with each other. And also, my husband and I have different love languages, and that plays a lot of parts into how we work together. When it comes to his love language, he loves acts of service and gifts, and I love quality time and physical touch. And physical touch is literally my husband's like last love language, like literally got like 1 point on the whole entire test or whatever. So it's really interesting because we have to learn how to love each other the opposite way of how we love getting loved. And it's very, very interesting because my husband, he loves having his own space, his own time by himself. And at first I wasn't understanding why he wanted so much time to himself when I'm the type of person that loves spending a lot of time with him. I love quality time. I love when we spend hours and hours together, and he's like the complete opposite. Obviously, he loves spending time with me too, but I had to learn how to give him personal space, and I'm still learning how to do that in a very healthy way, And this was even before we were married. I used to have this whole problem where I thought he just didn't want to be around me at all, but it's not that. He just wanted quality time with himself. And so do I now. Like, I actually love time with myself as well. So we basically had to learn a lot about how we did things and what type of products we use, and it was just really interesting, So yeah, but I honestly now, like, I obviously would never want to live without him. I love living with him. I think it's so fun. I think it's amazing. We get to like have sleepovers every single night. We get to go late at night. If we want to go get food, we can do that. If we want to stay up all night watching movies, if we want to just travel, do whatever the heck we want, we can do that. And it's the best thing ever. Like, I love it. All right. Especially like when you're living with your best friend, it's seriously so much fun. It's so much fun. I love being married. Do you have the same love languages? We do not have the same love languages. And I had already spoke on this, but I have to learn how to love my husband like he needs to be loved. And I have been learning and growing in this so much. And so has he. Like, he doesn't have, his top love language isn't touch like mine is. And I used to feel really neglected sometimes because I'm the type of person that wants to hold hands the whole entire time. And honestly, I feel like even growing up in my family, that's a lot of what we were as well. Like, always wanted to cuddle, always wanted to hug, you know, always giving each other hugs and kisses when we see each other. But my husband and his family aren't really like that. So when it comes to him, he had to learn how to love me like how I love to be loved, which is cuddling and kissing and hugging and everything, like all the time, which sometimes he gets annoyed of because, you know, like I said, it's just not the way that he perceives love and everything. So we basically just have to learn how to love each other like how we both love to be loved, which is very interesting. It's something that's a growing process. I feel like if you guys are both willing to put in the effort, then anything can be possible within this relationship. Like, if you guys are both willing to say, we have differences, but I'm willing to put in the effort to make this better. And that's what we've said over and over again, time and time again. Even when we had the most biggest fights, we have said over and over again, I'm willing to put in the effort to love you in the way that you need to be loved. And that's what's made this amazing, because even when my husband doesn't feel like it, he loves me. Even when I don't feel like it, I love him like how he wants to be loved. Obviously, it's always a growing process, but I think that we were going to keep on growing forever. So there's that. And then the last one is, have you had problems with nagging, or how to be a less naggy wife? And yes, for sure. I have definitely had problems nagging in the past, and sometimes still do. But I do my best to have respect in the way that I speak to him. And in doing so, I honor him. That being said, instead of nagging, instead of fighting and stuff like that, I've been learning with each scenario and each bigger scenario in our marriage to pray for my husband and pray that he's going to make the right decision for our family. And how I said in another video that if he makes the wrong decision, then that's between him and God. That's between him and God. But I'm doing my part as a wife who is praying fervently and, you know, just being in submission to my husband. When it comes to nagging though, like on a regular basis, instead of being like,
I need you to go and take out the garbage, or can you take out the garbage? You're doing all these other different things. Why can't you just take out the garbage?
No man is going to take that and want to willingly do something, right? But I'm telling you, if you, in a beautiful, kind tone, tell your husband, hey baby, I'm working on the dishes right now, do you mind taking out the trash really quick? Boom, like that's just gonna really make him motivated to do things. Or if you have something that you want him to do, hey baby, I understand that you're tired, you had a really rough day today, would you mind doing this though really quick? Like, literally, it's knowing how to speak to your husband. So stop nagging, stop being rude. Proverbs 21:9 says, better to live on a corner of the roof than share a house with a quarrelsome wife. And then Proverbs 21:19 says, better to live in a desert than with a quarrelsome and nagging wife. So if you are a nagging wife, if you are a quarrelsome wife, which obviously there's a few verses on this. So if you are a quarrelsome wife, the Bible says it is better to live in the desert. It is better to live in the corner of a roof than live with you. Like, that's what the Bible says. Very interesting, right? I mean, obviously back in the day, they dealt with nagging wives as well. This must be something that has been there for generations. So I don't want to be that type of wife. And obviously I still struggle with it, but I do my best every single day to think before I speak and say things in a loving manner, because my husband is a very loving and kind man, and he's gonna hear me and he's gonna care about what I have to say, and 9 times out of 10 he's gonna do what I ask. I'm not saying like a dog, but I'm saying just in, a serving attitude, because obviously both my husband and I serve each other. That's how we love each other. We serve each other over and over again throughout our marriage. That was a lot of questions. Some of them were pretty juicy. I really hope that you guys learned a lot in this video. I am really excited for all the videos that are to come. If you don't know, I actually post videos about my journey as a young wife, as a young Christian, and as a homemaker. So if you are interested in my journey and what I'm learning, I'm definitely not an expert by any means, but definitely subscribe and I'll be honest and share my journey, share my shortcomings and things that I'm learning. And yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video and I'll see you next week. Bye guys.